Magic Tree House, Book Number 37, Rhinos at Recess, by Mary Pope Osborne. Chapter 1, Recess in Africa? A spring wind blew across the schoolyard. The playground was bathed in morning light. Kids were shouting, tossing balls, and running races. Jack! Jack was playing volleyball. He saw Annie calling to him from the edge of the court. "I need your help, please," she shouted. "I'll be right back," Jack said to his teammates. He ran over to Annie. "What's up?" he said. "I left the folder for my science project at home," Annie said. "I have to give my report after recess. My teacher called Mom at work. Mom said I can go home and get it if you come with me. We have to be back in 15 minutes before recess ends." "Okay, no problem," said Jack. Their house was only a couple of blocks away. He turned to his friends. "We have to get something at home. Be back soon." Jack and Annie ran from the playground and started up the sidewalk toward their house. "What's your report about?" asked Jack. "What do you think?" said Annie. Jack smiled. "Some kind of animal," he said. "But what is it?" Annie was an expert on animals. "All kinds," said Annie. "I have to get my big folder of pictures." Heading up their street, Jack and Annie walked by a church and the library. As they passed the Frog Creek woods, Annie grabbed Jack's arm. "Stop, look," she said. She pointed to a small gray bird sitting on a branch. The bird had a bright red beak. Its yellow eyes were staring straight at them. "What's that?" said Jack. "A red-billed oxpecker," Annie said in a hushed voice. "I thought they only lived in Africa." The bird let out a raspy cry. "He wants us to follow him," said Annie. "We can't. Not if you want to get your folder," said Jack. "We have just enough time to go to our house and get back to school before the end of recess." The oxpecker cried out again. Then it spread its wings, lifted off the branch, and flew into the woods. "We have to follow him," said Annie. "We can't do both, I told you," said Jack. "Make a choice, your science report or the bird." The oxpecker called from the trees. "The bird," said Annie. She started running. "Oh, man," said Jack, but he hurried after Annie. The little bird kept calling, leading them on through the Frog Creek woods. "This has to mean the tree house is there," called Annie. "Maybe we're going all the way to Africa." "I guess we'll find out," said Jack. "Remember our other 2 trips to Africa?" said Annie. "The gorillas in the mountain forest, the lions in Tanzania?" "Oh yeah, the lions," Jack said with a shiver. They had barely escaped the lions. Annie and Jack hurried through the woods until the oxpecker called to them from the tallest oak. They stopped and looked up at the top of the tree. Sunlight shone on the magic tree house. "I guess you made the right choice," said Jack. "Yes, I did," said Annie. The oxpecker took off into the bright spring sky. "Thank you," Annie called after it. Then she grabbed the rope ladder and started up. Jack followed. When they climbed inside, Jack looked around and frowned. "Morgan didn't send a research book," he said. "She just left the Pennsylvania book to take us back home." "Yeah, but here's a note," said Annie. She picked up a piece of paper from a dark corner of the treehouse. She unfolded the paper and read aloud. "Journey to a grassland with flowers and thorns, wildebeests, zebras, and creatures with horns. Use magic just once. Save life old and new. To chase away danger, here's what to do. Find a paper tree with roots at the top. Point to the giant. Say, please make them stop. Wow, I guess we're having recess in Africa today, Annie said. That's the only place where wildebeests and zebras live naturally, just like oxpeckers. And lions? Asked Jack. Annie nodded. Nearly all wild lions live in Africa. Okay, Jack said with a sigh. He took a deep breath and looked at the rhyme. What's a paper tree? He said. Said Annie. Paper can be made from trees, so maybe it has something to do with that. No, it says with roots at the top, said Jack. Trees only have roots at the bottom. And what does this mean? Point to the giant? What giant? A big animal like a gorilla or an elephant? Said Annie. They're big, but I wouldn't call them giants, said Jack. He looked around. Too bad we don't have a research book. We'll just have to figure it out, said Annie. Should we point to the word grassland and make a wish? Go for it, said Jack. He handed Annie the rhyme. But listen, when we land, don't run off like you usually do. Wait until we decide on a plan, something we both agree on. Promise? Sure, Annie said. Let's go. She pointed at the word grassland. I wish we could go there, she said. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. Hey, kids! Bright sunlight poured into the treehouse. Jack heard swishing sounds and bird song. We're still wearing our same clothes, said Annie. They were both still dressed in t-shirts and jeans. Maybe we're still in the present time, said Jack. They looked out the window together. It's Africa, said Annie. The treehouse was tucked into an umbrella-like tree. Other trees and spiky-looking bushes were scattered across a grassy plain. A warm wind rustled the high grass with a swishing sound. Zebras, said Annie. In the distance, 2 zebras were grazing. And wildebeests. Yep, we're definitely in Africa, said Jack. The sight of the horned wildebeests and black and white striped zebras took his breath away. Then he glanced around for lions. Look, said Annie. Jack jumped. Lions? He said. No, said Annie. Tourists. She pointed to a bus bumping along a dirt road that wound through the grassland. Painted letters on the side of the bus said, Safari Ride. Passengers sat in several rows of seats in the open-air bus. Cool, said Jack. He was relieved. If tourists were safe here, he and Annie must be safe too. The bus came to a halt. Stopping for photos, the driver called. Some of the tourists jumped out to photograph the zebras and wildebeests. We're definitely still in our time, said Annie. They're all using cell phones to take pictures. Right, said Jack. Come on, let's join them, said Annie. The safari ride? Said Jack. Yes, said Annie. I've always wanted to go on a safari and see the animals. Don't be silly, said Jack. We can't just appear out of nowhere and hop on the bus. They'll wonder where we came from. Let's stick to our mission. He looked at their rhyme again. He repeated the second and third verses. Use magic just once. Save life old and new. To chase away danger, here's what to do. Find a paper tree with roots at the top. point to the giant. Say, please make them stop. Okay, the good news is we can use magic in case of danger, said Annie. But how do we use it? Said Jack. Well, it says we have to find a paper tree with roots at the top, said Annie. Then we point to a giant and stop. We still don't know what a paper tree is, said Jack. What does it have to do with a giant? And who are them? What do we want them to stop doing? I don't know, said Annie, heaving a sigh. Nothing makes sense, said Jack. Don't worry, said Annie. Let's just join the safari ride and have some fun. And we can ask the other people about paper trees. Seriously, we can't join them, said Jack. The driver will wonder why we're here alone in the middle of nowhere. It'll turn into a big deal, and then we'll be in trouble. I'll think of something to say, said Annie. Back on board, the driver called to his passengers. Hurry, the bus is about to leave, said Annie. She scrambled down the rope ladder. I just told you we can't join them, called Jack. But Annie was already heading toward the bus. Oh, brother! Jack stuffed Morgan's note into his back pocket and hurried after Annie. As he stepped into the tall grass, the safari ride bus started moving. Wait! Hey, wait! Annie shouted. She started running after the bus. Annie, hold on! Jack called after her. Forget it, it's too far away. Annie stopped, gasping for breath. She and Jack watched the safari bus bump down the dirt road. Soon it disappeared behind a thicket of trees and bushes. Annie, I told you we have to stick to our mission, said Jack. Annie looked down. I'm sorry, I got carried away, she said. We have to make a plan, said Jack. Something we both agree on. Okay, said Annie. Jack sighed and pushed his glasses into place. He looked around. So what now? He said. The zebras and wildebeests still grazed in the distance. Loud chirping and clicking sounds came from the grass. Dragonflies darted among purple wildflowers. Croaking sounds came from a muddy creek. A swarm of mosquitoes danced in the air. Hey, what's that? Said Annie. What's what? Said Jack. That. Annie walked over to some reeds. She bent down and picked up a booklet. South American Game Reserve, she read aloud from the cover. Someone on the safari ride must have dropped this. Let me see, said Jack. Annie handed him the booklet. Jack read the front page. A number of African game reserves, like this one, protect some of the largest animals on Earth, such as elephants, giraffes, and black rhinos. Oh, wow! We landed in a game reserve, said Annie. They protect animals here. That's so great. Yeah, it is, said Jack. He kept reading. Reserve rangers guard the grasslands and take visitors on safari rides. Sometimes the rangers risk their lives to protect animals from deadly danger. Deadly danger, repeated Jack. Like what, lions? Maybe, said Annie. Keep going. Before Jack could read more, the rumble of an engine came from behind them. He and Annie quickly turned around. An old jeep was bouncing up the dirt road. The vehicle stopped near Jack and Annie. A young man and woman jumped out. They wore tan uniforms with name badges. Hey kids, the man shouted. What are you doing out here all by yourselves?